If you knew before a single conversation, before a single meal, that someone was going to destroy you, would you still choose them? Not as a hypothetical, as a real decision, with real consequences that you would have to live with. Meet Daniel, 27 years old. Grew up in a church where every question had an answer, and every answer came fast. He still goes, he sings the songs, he shakes the hands. But something shifted a few years ago, and he has not told anyone. It was not a scandal, not a crisis of morality. It was quieter than that. He started noticing that the answers he had been handed did not actually fit the questions he was carrying. And the question underneath all the others, the one he cannot say out loud on a Sunday morning, is this: did God already know how my story ends? Because if God already knows, if every choice Daniel makes is already visible to a God outside of time, then what, exactly, is Daniel choosing? That question has a name. It is the Judas paradox. Jesus of Nazareth spent 3 years choosing people to carry his mission forward. He chose 12 men, lived with them, shared meals with them, taught them on hillsides and in boats, and inside other people's homes. One of those 12 men would sell him for 30 pieces of silver. And Jesus knew it before he ever called the man's name. Not as a vague suspicion, not as a quiet worry, as a certainty. John 6, verse 70. Jesus says, "Have I not chosen you, the 12? And yet one of you is a devil." He said that roughly a year before the arrest, before Judas ever walked into a room with the chief priests. That is not the statement of a man who was caught off guard. So here's the question underneath the question. If God knew before Judas was born, before he made a single decision that he would betray the Son of God, why let the story go that way? Was Judas a man who chose to fall, or was he a role that had to be filled? Was the betrayal a sin or a script? I do not think most churches are honest about that question. So let us start where the discomfort actually lives, with the prophecy. Before we go any further, if you are getting something out of this, it would genuinely mean a lot if you hit subscribe and the notification bell. We are trying to grow this community, and most of you watching right now are not subscribed yet. It takes 2 seconds, and it means you will actually see the next one when it drops. The Bible does not just say God knew what Judas would do. It says God said so centuries before Judas was born. Psalm 41, verse 9, written by David. David writes, "Even my close friend, someone I trusted, one who shared my bread, has turned against me." That is not a vague prediction. Jesus quotes that very psalm in John chapter 13 and applies it directly to his betrayer. Then there is Zechariah 11, verses 12 and 13, written about 500 years before Judas. The prophet describes 30 pieces of silver being thrown to the potter in the house of the Lord. Matthew 27 records the chief priests doing exactly that after Judas returned the money, and they used it to buy the potter's field. The amount? The trusted companion, the potter's field. All of it written down centuries before it happened. If you are Daniel watching this right now, something shifts at this point. It starts to feel like Judas never had a real choice. Like the script was already written and he was just reading lines someone else put there. And if Judas did not have a real choice, then what does that say about anyone's choices? This is the wall where a lot of people stop. They either push through the discomfort or they walk away from the faith entirely. But there is something buried in the Greek text that reframes this entirely if you know where to look. The word is paradidomi. It is a Greek verb. It means to hand over, to deliver up, to betray. Matthew uses it when Judas walks into his meeting with the chief priests. Judas paradidomi, Judas handed him over. Straightforward enough, but here is where it gets strange. Romans 8, verse 32, Paul is writing about what God the Father did for humanity. He writes, "He who did not spare his own son, but paradidomi him for us all." The Father, paradidomi, Jesus, same verb, same word. Judas paradidomi, Jesus to the chief priests. God paradidomi, Jesus for humanity. 2 handing overs, 1 event. Paul is not making that comparison by accident. He is building a theological argument that the betrayal and the sacrifice were not separate events. They were the same act, seen from 2 different angles. Judas acted out of greed. God acted out of love. The action, the verb, was shared. Which brings us to one of the strangest moments in the entire Gospel of John, the Last Supper. Jesus and his 12 in the upper room. Jesus says, "One of you will betray me." The disciples look at each other. Nobody knows who he means. John, reclining next to Jesus, leans in and asks, Jesus answers quietly, "It is the one to whom I give this piece of bread when I have dipped it." He dips the bread. He gives it to Judas. I want to know where you are landing on this. Drop a comment below. I genuinely read every one. And what you share shapes what I go looking for next. In first-century Jewish culture, the host giving a dipped morsel to a guest was not a neutral gesture. It was a sign of honor, of singling someone out, not in shame, in favor. Jesus knew what Judas was about to do. He had known for at least a year, and he still honored him at the table. I keep coming back to that. It says something about Jesus that the Sunday school version of this story almost never gets to. Then, after Judas takes the bread, John writes that Satan entered into him, and Jesus says, "What you are about to do, do quickly." The disciples think Jesus is sending Judas out on an errand. He is not. He is releasing him. He is saying, "The time has come. You have made your choice. Go." If you want to support what we do here, there is a Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon link in the description. Even a small contribution genuinely helps us keep making content like this. Completely optional, but it means a lot. Now both things seem to be sitting on the table at once. The scripture had to be fulfilled, Acts 1:16. Peter stands up after the ascension and says exactly that, and yet Judas made a series of choices, real ones, his own, Matthew 26, verse 14. Judas went to the chief priests. That was a walk he took, a door he knocked on. He asked them what they would give him. He negotiated a price. Nobody dragged him there, and there is one more detail that does not get mentioned nearly enough. John 12, verse 6. Judas was the keeper of the group's money bag, and he had been stealing from it. This was not a man who cracked under the weight of one terrible night. The pattern was already there, long before the garden, long before the silver. So the question is not really whether Judas chose, he did. The question is whether a choice can be both free and foreknown. And here is the honest answer. I think it can, but sitting with that requires something uncomfortable. Knowing that something will happen is not the same as causing it. If you have ever watched someone you loved walk toward a terrible decision, warned them, watched them do it anyway, you knew you did not cause it. God existing outside of time means he sees every moment the way we see a finished book. He knows how it ends without having controlled every sentence in the middle. But here is what I think gets moved past too quickly in most of these conversations. Even if that framework holds, even if knowing is not the same as causing, it does not fully lift the weight of what this story is actually saying. Because the same God who knew Judas would betray him, chose him anyway, put him in that story, in that role, on that night. And I think that is the part that actually haunts Daniel, not just the knowing, the choosing. So here's what I think the text is arguing. When you read it whole, Judas was not chosen to be the betrayer. He was chosen to be a disciple. The betrayal, that was his decision. Jesus called all 12 men. He taught them. He served them. He washed their feet. John 13, verse 5. He poured water into a basin and started washing his disciples' feet. All of them. There is no footnote that says he skipped Judas. Within the hour, the man whose feet he washed would lead. Soldiers to the garden. That is either the most irrational scene in the New Testament, or it is the clearest picture we have of what love looks like when it decides not to protect itself. One last thing. In John 17:12, Jesus prays and refers to Judas as the son of perdition. In Greek, huios tes, that exact phrase, huios tes apeleus, appears one other time in the entire New Testament. Paul uses it in 2 Thessalonians 2:3 for the man of lawlessness, the figure most readers associate with the Antichrist. Judas is the only person in all of Scripture given that title outside of that figure. Most people have never noticed that. That is not a label for a weak man who broke under pressure. That is something else. And still, Jesus got down on his knees and washed his feet. If this opens something up for you, there is another video linked right here that I think you will find just as valuable. And if you have not subscribed yet, hit that button and the bell so you do not miss the next one. Thank you genuinely for being here.